So for the past couple of months, myself and Sydney, a good friend of mine, have been working on a little project. It's nothing too big, it's actually only very early stages, but there are some very good things that can come out of it. And I can't wait to share this with you guys, and I hope that one day this can be really big. Now, when I look around Australian finance channels that are out there and accounts on social media, even Australian authors that go on to write personal finance books, all of this information is more or less coming from the same source, from one perspective. Basically what I mean is I want there to be more diversity in the types of people that talk about personal finances, investing from their own perspective. So we can have more representation and more voice, because the more we talk about money, the better it is, because let's face it, we all want to make more money, we all want to build wealth, we all want to have more. So let's talk about it. As you guys might know, I was born in Pakistan. I came to Australia when I was 8 years old with my family as an immigrant, and there's lots of challenges that I faced, that my family have faced. I'm coming here, adjusting here, and there's a lot of things that have happened that have shaped the way that I look at money and shaped my reasons for investing and building wealth, and I'm sure you've got your reasons as well. My friend Sydney has a background quite similar to mine. He was born in Nicaragua and came to Australia as an immigrant in his teens, and he's faced a lot of challenges himself, and he continues to just kill it every single day. And we want to talk about these things from our perspective, from an immigrant perspective, on topics that we don't necessarily see right now in the Australian media landscape, on a brand new podcast we're calling Migrant Money Australia. Now, I know what you guys are probably thinking. So this guy just talked all this crap just to say that he's starting a podcast? Like, seriously? It's not even that groundbreaking. Anybody can start a podcast literally like tomorrow. What an absolute tool. But it's not just about that. We want this to be more than just a podcast. We want it to be a community full of like-minded people from different countries and different nationalities that are new here, or just simply resonate with what we've got to say. I'm sure that the things we've talked about in the past and the things that we're going to talk about in the future are going to be super relatable if you come from these immigrant backgrounds, or if you're a second-generation immigrant, or you know someone who is from an immigrant background. I think it's going to be so much more relatable, especially since I haven't really seen something like this in Australia that talks about the immigrant experience and their perspectives, and also combines it with money and personal finance and investing. Of course, we're not just going to talk about ourselves, we also have plans to bring on guests from the community itself and highlight their story. We've both lived in Western Sydney basically our whole lives, so we are truly from the area, and we want to bring on guests from the area onto the podcast. We want to highlight their stories, especially when it comes to money, their personal struggles, challenges, when it comes to career, dealing with life in Australia as opposed to life back home. There's so much that we as immigrants go through that simply just doesn't get talked about enough, and we just want to change that. If you're watching this video and you came from overseas, or your parents did, I'm sure you can relate to what I'm talking about. Even though the funny thing is, first and second gen immigrants in Australia are the majority according to census data. We want to bring on people that have come here and are absolutely killing it when it comes to their investing, or they have a business that is absolutely killing it, or they've gone through some really tough times coming to Australia and adjusting here. We want to shine a light on all of these stories. On a personal note, I feel like I'm at a point in my life now where I'm just going to try a whole bunch of things that can potentially add value to others and see how I go. Plus, I think this could be a really good way to meet some super cool people. In fact, from this whole social media thing, I actually got to meet Sydney literally from TikTok. We were both making investing content back in the early days of TikTok and decided to follow each other and even do a live stream together, which was super cool and scary. So from hearing this, if you're even mildly curious about what we're doing here, I highly recommend you check it out. In fact, our season 1 of the podcast has gone live literally just yesterday. I'll leave a link in the description for the video version of the podcast, but the audio version is available on Spotify as well. We've also made 5 podcast episodes which are live right now, and we're calling it season 0, and this was more of a test run to see if we actually like podcasting. I will say though, I'm not the best at podcasting. I've still got a long way to go. You'll see what I mean. This podcast is definitely not at the level you would expect from some of the great podcasters that are out there right now, just in terms of how they speak. People like Joe Rogan or Lex Fridman, we are not even close to that level just yet. But we're slowly getting there, and we're also doing the podcast in one take, as we should, because it's a podcast and we want it to be as authentic as possible. Because with YouTube, I feel like you can really manufacture a video exactly how you want it to look like and be a completely different person off camera. But if you look at podcasts, you really can't fake it for long periods of time. What you see is basically how you are. Anyways, if this is something you'd be interested in, check out the podcast and rate us. It really helps us a lot. And of course, definitely reach out if you're new to Australia. We would love to help.